The Wondrous Journey in a Soap Bubble. Did you know that soap bubbles have been around for absolutely ages? You know the ones, those shimmering, wobbly globes made of nothing but soapy water and a breath of air. If you're not quite sure what I mean, perhaps ask your mum. But honestly now, who doesn't know what soap bubbles are? They've existed for a very long time indeed. Much longer than you might imagine. Even longer than the postal service. And the post has been going for donkey's years, as we know. I couldn't say if everything was better in the old days than it is now. After all, I wasn't there myself, but I am sure many things were vastly different. People put glowing hot coals inside their irons to heat them, had their briefcases stitched by a saddler, and fetched their eggs directly from the henhouse. Yes, those were curious times indeed, and when the carrier pigeons were feeling a bit lazy, people would send their greetings floating inside a soap bubble. Even dreams flew from child to child, carried gently within a shimmering bubble. It is said that the very same inventors who came up with soap bubbles much later invented Christmas tree baubles. These are, so to speak, soap bubbles that last forever, provided you don't drop them, of course. Soap bubbles existed long before people even thought of making glass. Imagine that! There were no bottles, no drinking glasses, no light bulbs. Yet soap bubbles were already floating about, back when folks still gathered by the soft glow of oil lamps to tell each other stories. One of the tales told back then was about a little man who could travel inside a soap bubble. Now, don't go thinking the man was terribly small. No, indeed. In his case, the soap bubble was simply enormous. The little man, whose name was Jonathan, had built himself a round wooden stool. He placed it plonk in the middle of a large bowl filled with perfect soapy water. Then he sat on the stool, tucked his legs up tight, used a hoop, a bambolet, to blow a giant soap bubble around himself, and whoosh, off he went on his journey. As everyone knows, soap bubbles fly beautifully. They can travel long distances and soar very high, but that all depends on the quality of the soapy mixture, you see. If you use too much water and not enough soap, you can forget it. If the mixture is too weak, you'd be lucky to make it past your own garden gate, let alone go on travels. And Jonathan wanted to travel much further. He wanted to go to Batavia. He had heard tell of wonderful flowers there, a wide blue sea, and lots of windmills. The people there were said to walk around in wooden clogs and eat cheese all day long. Jonathan liked the sound of that enormously. He loved cheese more than anything else in the world. However, he thought he would have to try it out first to see if he could get used to walking in wooden shoes. It would be new to him, but the people of Batavia had always done it that way. At least, that is what he had been told. So he prepared a particularly splendid soap solution with plenty of good soap in it and packed a small suitcase to take with him on his travels. Then he waited for the right wind. What good is it if you want to go to Batavia, but the wind blows you to Timbuktu or somewhere else where you don't know a soul? No, he had to wait for just the right breeze. And after 3 days of waiting, the desired wind finally arrived, apologizing terribly for being late. It had had to sweep a forest that was in the way, you see. Now, he was ready to go. Jonathan sat down on his stool in the large bowl of perfect soapy water, pulled his feet up, tucked the small suitcase under his arm, used his bambolet hoop to make the bubble, and the journey began. The wind lifted the soap bubble higher and higher. Soon he could see his little house from high above and the bowl sitting in the yard. It would have made no sense to put the bowl in the kitchen because, as we all know, the wind does not blow inside the house, only around it. But you probably knew that already. Other houses passed beneath him. Jonathan looked down at different towns. He saw forests, then a river, then green meadows and pastures with grazing cows. Traveling was a wonderful thing. Jonathan took a buttered sandwich out of his little suitcase and took a hearty bite. Traveling does make one hungry. Eventually, he saw the first windmills and the soap bubble began to sink. After all, Jonathan had agreed with the wind that he didn't want to go to America or anywhere like that, but only intended to travel as far as Batavia. Slowly, the soap bubble approached a city in Batavia that Jonathan had already taken a liking to from above. Just as the wind blew the bubble towards a bustling town square and it was about to touch the ground, Jonathan took a long hat pin from his waistcoat pocket, gave the soap bubble a little poke from the inside, and pop! It burst immediately. And so Jonathan made a skillful landing right on the cobblestones. All that remained of his mode of transport were a few splashes of soapy water on the pavement. The people staring were quite astonished. Apparently, traveling in a soap bubble was not yet known in Batavia, whereas it was common practice in Jonathan's homeland. Different countries, different customs, thought Jonathan. "Welcome to Batavia," boomed a tall man with a large round cheese balanced on his shoulder. "I am the mayor here. May I present you with one of our finest cheeses as a welcome gift?" With that, he rolled the large yellow cheese off his shoulder and handed it to Jonathan. "Oh, that is terribly kind of you," said Jonathan. "I couldn't take much with me on the long journey in my little travel bubble, so I am ashamed that I have nothing to give you in return." "On the contrary," cried the mayor, "you can give us something wonderful if you teach us how to travel in a soap bubble. I am certain the citizens of my city, nay, everyone in Batavia, would love to learn that." "Oh, I'd be delighted to show you," replied Jonathan. "And since I certainly can't take your magnificent cheese home with me, there simply wouldn't be room for it in the soap bubble. I shall stay here with you until I've eaten it all. During that time, I'll let you in on the secret of how to travel my way." The mayor was delighted with this good news and quickly set about telling everyone that a little man had arrived from far away to initiate the citizens of Batavia into the art of soap bubble travel. The very next day, when Jonathan had slept in and eaten his fill of the delicious cheese for breakfast, a crowd of people were waiting in the large square to find out what this mysterious travel was all about. The mayor gave a short speech. Mayors do seem to do that on every occasion, and introduced Jonathan. Jonathan bowed politely and explained, "Well, traveling in a soap bubble is actually no big deal. You need a bowl, a stool, a hoop, like my bambolet here, the right wind and, of course, a proper soapy lather. Then you're ready to go." The people looked at him blankly. "What is a soapy lather, please?" they asked. The good people of Batavia didn't know what soap was, let alone lather. Now Jonathan understood many things. If they didn't know what soap was, then of course they couldn't know about traveling in a soap bubble. "How do you wash your clothes then?" Jonathan asked, baffled. He thought perhaps they knew soap by another name. "Well, the washerwomen go down to the river, take some sharp sand and scrub the laundry, beating it on the large stones, just as we have always done." Jonathan had an idea. Apparently, there was not a single bar of soap in the whole of Batavia. He would have to discuss this with the mayor first. "Please wait a moment, good people. This lack of soap seems to be a big problem. I shall have to discuss it with your mayor, but I'm sure we'll find a solution." He promised the people he would continue with his demonstrations the next day and retired to the town hall with the mayor. "You don't know soap or lather here, but that is a basic requirement if you want to create a soap bubble to travel in. What are we going to do?" The mayor was desperate. "Where can I get soap by tomorrow so you can continue your explanations?" "Leave that to me," said Jonathan. "But did you know that soap is not only used to make bubbles for traveling, but also for washing clothes? It makes them wonderfully clean and smells splendid. Soap is also used for washing ourselves. It makes our skin sparkling clean and keeps us healthy." The mayor was astonished. "I have never seen a bar of soap in all my time as mayor." Jonathan smiled mischievously. "We can change that." He took a bar of hard soap out of his small suitcase. He had brought it with him for the return journey, but he wouldn't need it all anyway. "Look, Mr. Mayor, this is a bar of soap. Of course, this one isn't enough for all the citizens of your town, let alone all of Batavia. But how about if I send you a reasonable quota of soap from my homeland every month for your people?" "Quota?" Jonathan particularly liked that word. He felt it impressed the mayor greatly with his business knowledge. He could have just said amount. Yes, that sounds marvelous. But how should the trade be conducted? Jonathan had already thought about that too. When I flew here, I noticed that there is a wide river connecting our two countries. How about I have a ship loaded with your order of soap, and once you have unloaded it in your port, you fill the ship up with your fine cheese and send it back. We'll do this once a month and everyone will be happy. What do you think, Mayor? The mayor was enthusiastic. And so, the trade between Batavia and Jonathan's homeland began. The people back home finally got to know good cheese from Batavia, and the people of Batavia discovered the benefits of good soap. From then on, the Batavians no longer bathed in the river, but set up bathrooms in their own homes. A marvelous side effect of this was that the beer from Batavia became much better, because the brewers now found lovely clean water in the river. The next afternoon at midday, Jonathan stood next to the mayor in the large square again. He had found a large bowl and quickly bent a hoop. Then he showed the people of Batavia how to make a proper, frothy mixture with a single bar of soap. Next, he sat down on the stool he had placed in the bowl, made sure he had his hat pin in his pocket, and whoosh, with a swing of the bambole, he made a huge soap bubble. The wind caught it, and the bubble rose above the square with him inside it. The people were amazed and clapped their hands enthusiastically. Before the soap bubble could float away to great heights, Jonathan made a small hole in the bubble wall with his finger. The air escaped slowly, and the soap bubble descended back to the square. Just at the right moment, almost touching the ground, he used the hat pin and popped it. The mayor wanted to be the first to try this art, and Jonathan quickly helped him into a soap bubble. Sure enough, the mayor of Batavia floated majestically across his own town square. The people applauded again. Jonathan had explained to him exactly what he had to do to land safely. Now the people of Batavia formed a long queue. Everyone wanted to fly once in a soap bubble. But alas, after a few days, the soapy mixture was all gone and the bar of soap was completely used up. Well, there was no choice. Jonathan had to return home by ship. When the boat docked in the harbor of his hometown, the citizens were amazed that a little man like Jonathan had brought back a whole ship full of delicious cheeses. The trade began, and it wasn't long before Jonathan was a wealthy merchant, known far and wide for his fine cheese from Batavia. And the soap makers of the town worked extra shifts to load a ship full of soap once a month and send it to Batavia. So, a little trip had completely changed the little man's life. He and the mayor were very happy with their arrangement. In the years that followed, the mayor sometimes visited Jonathan, and for his holidays, Jonathan used his soap bubble to visit Batavia. Why they called the cheese bun from Batavia a halven haan, half a rooster, in Jonathan's hometown, however, remains a mystery to this day.